We're here and we're about to board another flight. This time it's Iberia on the A330 down to Madrid. They fly one of these a week. The rest of the days during the week are A320s. Standard European business class, but here we get a nice lie flat seat, get to try out the international version of their business class. It'll be interesting to fly Iberia again after many years. I haven't flown them in maybe a decade. So let's see if it's any different. I've heard that it can be hit or miss, but the seat looks nice, and 3.5 hour flight. I can't complain, I think, with what we're getting here. So it seems like the plane is pretty full. Indeed, the airport in general is quite full. The lounge is packed. Flying is definitely back, at least up here in Scandinavia or in Europe in general. So let's get on board and see what awaits us on this flight.
Attention crew, I'm at flight 330.
Was 2 Alpha Cushion. Slack Panama. Please place your hand in your mediocre or light to adjust to inflate the jacket firmly on the red toggle or blow into the mouthpiece. And remember, only say the jacket when you leave the aircraft. Contiene máscaras de oxígeno. Con los cascos de roca y reduciremos procuraremos mantener la máxima distancia. Eso sí.
I've always loved seeing the choices airlines make, especially in premium cabins. The colors they use, the fabrics, the design of the menus, the drink options, and so on. Every little aspect of what they put forward to their customers. Sitting in a nice seat on a daytime flight and getting to enjoy both the view and sample the onboard offering of an airline that's foreign to me, I always feel very lucky. Unfortunately, while the view of the wing and engine is fantastic this afternoon, Iberia's service choices are mostly underwhelming. So let's get into it. Lunch service on this 3.5 hour flight tasted better than it looked, although it was not a big portion. I'd say acceptable for intra-European business class though. The main failing was that there were no menus and no real description of the options by flight attendants either. I chose the pasta, and it was the vegetarian option. Still, at least the flavor was good. On a related note, while these seats are mostly sensibly laid out and set up, the tray table is oddly high relative to the passenger. For those who are taller, it's probably fine, but for shorter people, it could be awkward. More on the seat soon, though. Much more impactful was the slow and irritating Wi-Fi. I struggled even to send messages, which was maybe just as well because Iberia is also in the list of airlines that still employs data caps, and low ones too. They handed out these 30-minute, 20-megabyte Wi-Fi cards well after takeoff, when I'd already purchased a package. This one lasted about 5 minutes before cutting out too. So just don't expect to be productive on board this plane. I went into this flight expecting outright rude and unpleasant service because I've heard so many reports of that from others. To start off with, if that's what people go into a flight on your airline expecting, something has definitely gone wrong. But the flight attendants on this flight were not particularly unpleasant, so my low expectations worked in their favor. In fact, they were even friendly at times, though not particularly enthusiastic or effective, and there was a certain joylessness to everything. So once again, an underwhelming effort by Iberia. But let's get to the reason we're taking this flight in the first place. The seats, very nice. If you get one of the even numbered window seats, you're by yourself, no seatmate, direct aisle access, and you're separated from the aisle, so you have a nice feeling of privacy, even though you can see the rest of the cabin and they can see you. I would gladly fly transatlantic in this seat. I haven't tried it in bed mode, but it looks like it's plenty spacious and it's soft, something I appreciate. Not all new seats are. This is clearly the highlight here. I can't complain about the space, and I love not having to sit next to anyone, being able to get up when I want, etc. But let's talk about this bland gray and white color scheme they've gone for. The last time I flew Iberia business was actually back when they had angled flat seats, inferior to this, but they were a nice copper rust color that actually had something to do with Iberia's brand. They looked inviting. This looks like nothing much, instantly forgettable. A lot like the airline as a whole, and that's a shame. Still, it's quite a comfortable place to spend some time and even to lie down. Footwell space is quite good as it's relatively open and not a dark tunnel you have to wedge your feet into. Seat controls all work fine and it's easy to figure out. So purely because of the space the seat gave me and the nice views en route, this was a perfectly pleasant flight and a great way to get from Stockholm to Madrid. It's only a shame that Iberia doesn't put a little more effort in, and that many of its cabin crew don't seem to care too much. It could be so much better. Hours down to Madrid. This is a fantastic way to do it. But Iberia somehow manages to feel mediocre. Technically, they tick most of the boxes, but there was no above and beyond. There was no feeling that you were being looked after. I wouldn't hesitate to take this flight again if it was on an A330, but I think if it was on a standard European A320 type plane, I would not have any particular reason to pick Iberia. I don't know, maybe Iberia is satisfied with that level that they've attained. They've been that way for years and years. But they could be better, I think. They could rise above that. It'll be interesting to see if they ever do. Anyway, coming into land at Madrid now, a few minutes left, 15 or so. And looks like a nice evening for landing at Barajas. So, we'll see you on the ground.
Cabin crew, secure cabin for landing.
My disappointment was somewhat offset by this beautiful early evening landing into Barajas.
Y estamos llegando 15 minutos antes de la hora programada. Tiempo a Madrid es bueno, está despejado, la temperatura es de 24 grados centígrados. Muchas gracias por haber volado con nosotros. Espero que hayan disfrutado del vuelo.
flies to the San anchor check.
Thanks for coming along on this one. In the next installment, I'll be reviewing a much better and more interesting Spanish airline. If you follow us on social media, you'll already know which, but let me know if you can guess what it is. In Madrid, for Flight Radar 24, I'm Gabriel Lee.